Let us welcome the fifth speaker. The fifth speaker is Ms. Hinako Ueki. Her speech title is Your Hands into Words, Your Hands into Words. So Ms. Ueki, please come up to the stage.
Thank you, Masters of Ceremonies, honorable judges, and timekeepers. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. This is how I introduce myself in sign language. Every time there's an opportunity to use sign language in front of people like this, I always have the same conversation over and over again. I never knew that you spoke sign language. You need to teach me. I smile until this person adds, wait, you know what? Never mind. Sign language is too difficult for me. When I hear sign language, it's difficult, I don't immediately take offense. I mean, I can't argue. I've been studying sign language for 7 years, and to be honest, it's not always easy. However, does this only apply to sign language? Don't you think it is the same as learning Japanese or English? So today, I'm standing here to let you know that sign language is just like any other language that we use. After my speech, I want all of you to realize the importance of learning sign language and think about what we can do to make people who use sign language feel more welcomed in the society. Sign language is a visual language that uses hands, facial expressions, and the whole body to communicate. According to the Ministry of Health, Labor, and Welfare, approximately 1 out of 300 people in Japan are thought to be deaf. The number of people actually using sign language is much higher than this, since not only deaf people, but also hard of hearing people and their family members are using the language as well. Sign language is much more common than we think. Then why do people consciously or unconsciously draw a line between sign language and spoken language? This is because many of us believe that we have nothing to do with the language and the people who use them. In the back of your mind, you're thinking that there is no need to learn it if you could hear perfectly yourselves. However, having no interest in it misleads people into thinking that sign language is difficult to learn, uninteresting, or even worse, none of their business. If spoken language were taken for granted, people who use sign language would have to feel like an outsider, although they don't deserve it. They will feel a set of eyes on them whenever they talk. When they communicate with the hearing people, they must take out a sheet of paper and a pencil to write down what they want to say and read people's lips to understand what the others are saying. Why do they always have to be the ones to adjust? Can we not do something to make them feel more welcomed in the society? Yes, that is by learning sign language ourselves. And most importantly, making effort to use the language, even if it's not perfect. As for me, I became interested in sign language when I met a classmate who was deaf. But because I was afraid of not making myself understood, I hesitated to start a conversation. But one day she told me through her written words, you can pantomime or make up signs, even if you don't speak sign language. It shows that you're willing to communicate. That makes me feel more comfortable and simply happy. Her words resonated with me. After she told me this, I began to be more active in using sign language. One time when I ran into a group of people speaking in sign language, I smiled and greeted using the sign that I just memorized. Hello. They all seemed surprised at first, but greeted me back with a smile. From this experience, I learned that sign language is no more than one type of language that everyone can learn. You would feel happy and feel welcomed if you were greeted in your language at a foreign place, right? This is the same feeling for everyone. All of you can turn your hands into heartwarming words if you wanted to. Some people might say, I see your point, but still, it's difficult. Is that really true? It's quite easy to acquire once you give it a try. Most words have a meaning behind them, and this makes the language very amusing. Hello, in sign language, represents two people greeting each other by bowing. Like this, expressions in sign language reflect our daily lives, making it easier for us to remember. One way to start learning it is by using gestures or body language, like my friend had advised me. They're not an official sign language, but it shows that you're willing to communicate using their language. Or you can search for words online or watch TV programs like I did and share them with the people around you. No matter how small your steps may be, it is definitely one important step toward letting people know the joy of learning it. Sign language can not only connect you with the deaf people that you may happen to meet in the future, but this is also beneficial for verbal communication as well. Let's say that you go to a foreign country. You can't speak in their language, but you can use your body language and gestures effectively by using what you acquired from sign language. Now, it is your turn. Why not we start with simple phrases like, hello, thank you, and I love you. This is the place where all of us start from when learning a language, right? By learning and respecting sign language, we can change the hearing-centered society into a society for both the hearing and the deaf. I urge you to take your hands out of your pockets and use them to talk it. Ladies and gentlemen, the choice of whether to turn your hands into words is left in your hands. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Ueki. Now, we have a question and answer session. Ms. Fukushima, please.
Thank you, Ueki-san.
Thank you.
So you say sign language is just like any other language that we use.
Yes.
So why should we take up sign language over, for example, Spanish? You know, people who only speak Spanish in Japan will have a hard time.
Yes, of course, I like languages itself, so I like Spanish too, so I don't want anybody to misunderstand, but I want everyone to know that sign language is a language that's necessary, but not many people do it. So let's take an example, you go to the street and you see like those signs in different languages, Korean, Chinese, English, Spanish, and those signs, but we don't really see or have opportunity to look at sign language translations. So I think this is because people don't really know that it's something that we can learn in a fun, enjoyable way. So I think by learning sign language, it helps not only the people but it entertains ourselves as well.
Okay. So you must have many friends who have hearing difficulties.
Yes.
So what do they say is the most challenging thing in Japan who can't where there's so many people who can't communicate through sign language?
I have a friend who is hard of hearing, and she told me, she's a university student. She said because there's not much information guaranteed in her classrooms, when she takes notes, it's hard because she can't hear, it's difficult to take notes or catch important things that's being said by only verbally. So that's one of the problems that she's facing.
What do you think society can do to change that situation?
One thing as a society can do is that implementing those sign language classes for elementary school children or kindergarten children, to just let them know what sign language is and how fun it is. And another thing that a school or university maybe can do is that place note-taking volunteers or people who can use or who's willing to learn sign language to help those people in need.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Fukushima and Ms. Ueki. Please go back to your seat.